Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we're talking about gold. Bling bling, y'all. No more them dollar bills. I'm talking about gold, baby. Gold member. Austin Powers 3.
I love gold.
No, but really, recently a United States congressman proposed a bill that would put our country back on the gold standard, a system which would back up each US dollar with a certain amount of gold bullion in our federal reserves. And this is also a great excuse for me to use the word bullion. I feel like a pirate. Anyway, the gold standard system was mostly abandoned in America following the Great Depression in the 1930s, and it was completely given up on in 1971 by President Nixon. But now, in 2018, in a world where countries and their paper fiat currencies are losing value more and more each day, it may just be time to start backing our Benjamins again. Not to mention there's cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum which are getting stronger and stronger each day, encroaching on the other markets. So for today, we're going to go over this gold story with our expert and guest Colin from noblegoldinvestments.com, who's been kind enough to also sponsor today's video. Colin and Noble Gold know everything there is to know about gold, silver, investments, and more. So let's go ahead and bring him in and dive into the story. Colin, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Brooks. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for coming on. Looking forward to jump into this stuff. Before we get started, though, for people who are new to you and your company, what's a quick backstory for your history with gold and investments?
I've been in the investment space for almost 18 years. A little over a decade ago, I got involved in precious metals, and my partner, Charles Thornton, and I got involved in helping people get into physical investments. I was always intrigued with real estate, physical investments, and the way the markets were going, the volatility of the stock market. I watched the rise and the fall, and I really wanted to learn more about something that's better for inflation, something that you could invest into that's tangible. And so that's really what we focus on is actual silver pieces.
Nice.
Pieces.
Yeah, that looks good. It's something you can hold in your hand, something
Exactly.
physical. I've also looked into things, and gold is the oldest currency in the world. It's always been around. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. So it's an interesting option, especially with this day and age. Everyone talking about Bitcoin, digital currencies. Wall Street maybe was bigger in the 80s and 90s, and now gold is still around and still kicking strong, you say?
Well, Bitcoin, really, whoever created Bitcoin or the group that created Bitcoin, they had gold in mind when they created it because it has a lot of the same attributes. It has a limited supply, so there will only be 21 million Bitcoin ever created. So they set it up so that it has a limited supply, just like gold. Even with all the countries mining gold every year, the supply only grows by 1%, maximum 1% in a year. Mm-hmm. So there's really a finite amount of gold out there, and that's why it's a good hedge against inflation because there's a limited supply.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't realize the similarities. You think Bitcoin is so high tech, but they set it up kind of based on this gold thing, and that's also a good transition to back to today's story. We're talking about the gold standard a little bit, and
right.
There's a proposal in Congress talking about bringing back representing gold for each dollar, moving away from this fiat currency. And let's backtrack a little bit here. So we're talking about the possible gold standard. What brought us off of the gold standard before, and what would make us want to go back to it? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, and he said it was temporary. To quote Nixon, that eventually we would go back on it. And the reason that the world always trusted our currency, and the reason we became the world's reserve currency in 1944 is because we were on the gold standard. So countries liked the idea that we couldn't print like many other countries in the world. A lot of countries got into trouble with this. Germany ran into a big problem after World War I, and they literally were just printing and creating inflation, and they created wheelbarrow inflation, which basically people had to wheelbarrow their German francs up to pay for a loaf of bread. I mean, that's how much paper money it cost. They had to put it all in there. So, countries liked the fact that we were on the gold standard. We couldn't just print. And then Nixon in 1971 took us off the gold standard because he wanted to create more debt. He wanted the bankers were coming in and saying, hey, we want to expand the money supply. We want to be able to do more. And so they took us off the gold standard in 1971. And basically since then, the value of our dollar has shrunk tremendously. In that bill, H.R. 504, that Representative Mooney put forth on Congress, the one that you had mentioned, it talks about, over the last 100 years, our dollar has lost 96% of its value, of its buying power, which is a tremendous amount. And even he says, and this is in this bill from a congressman, it says every 35 years, the dollar shrinks in half. So, every time that we're buying goods and every day, the money that we have is just losing a little bit each day. It's kind of a minute amount every day. And we sort of don't really think about it. But if you think about it in that grand scheme, that every 35 years, our money is worth half. That means you have to make more. You have to make double what you were making just to break even.
I've been thinking about it myself. You get a little older, you think about making some savings or some small investments, and it's hard to really save money like you used to. Like if you're just going to keep cash in a savings account, like you mentioned, every year you're just losing value on that. It's not appreciating, it's depreciating, and this whole situation overall in the country, it just seems untenable. It's something that we can't go on forever. That's why this bill, I think, is interesting. It's a really great idea. I think I want to get more of your personal opinion on a sec, but basically I'm thinking if we can do this, is this a possible way to reverse the flow, like bring the dollar up again? Let's get more value in the American dollar. Do you think that's something that could come out of this?
Yeah, absolutely. And even if we just partially backed our currency by gold, let's say we did 50%, that would boost the value of our dollar. Countries would want to trade with it again. People would want to barter, because really their money is supposed to have a certain number of things that it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be fungible or tradable. It's supposed to be easy to trade. That's why gold has always been something it's easy to trade, because an ounce of gold here, an ounce of gold in New York, it's easy to understand the value. It's easy to identify it. But the other thing is it's supposed to be a store of value. That's the thing that the dollar's lost. It's not a store of value anymore. That's why gold and that's why Bitcoin have come about and been so prominent, is because people want to store their wealth somewhere. And so transitioning out of paper assets is a real way to keep your value and keep your money safe, especially right now. The stock market is at an all-time high. Everybody is out there waiting for that big correction. Jim Rogers came out yesterday, said he anticipates a 50% correction in the stock market, which would really devastate a lot of people.
Good. It's good to have options and different routes. I know we talked about the other options before, and like some people are on different sides. Like they don't trust Bitcoin, they don't trust computer stuff, and they're more hands-on metals, and this is the chance to kind of have that not only for yourself as a possibility, but also backing the dollars that you just spend day to day.
Yeah, and another thing about that bill, Brooks, it's interesting. At the bottom, if you read it, one thing that they talk about is once the bill is passed, that they're going to have to do a physical audit of all the gold the U.S. owns. And I think that would put a lot of people to ease. There's a lot of talk about, do we have gold in Fort Knox? Is there anything there? I don't think there is, but a lot of people do think that there is gold, because we've never actually done an audit since 1972. So I think there's a lot of things in that bill that would be great if it were to pass. Representative Mooney, when he put it out there, he doesn't have any co-sponsors. I hope he gets some co-sponsors. People sign it and they push it forward, and we could get back to more sound money principles.
Yeah, I think this is a step in the right direction if this moves forward, if this gets passed. I'm not sure how far it's gotten along there. I know it's been proposed just a few weeks ago, so it's still very new. You know how slow government stuff can be sometimes. But
I do.
Yeah. And so let's talk about the downsides. Is there any kind of negative to this? Is there any kind of I know you mentioned, do we have enough gold? Like there could be some problems to achieving this.
Sure. Going back on the gold standard would require us to pull a lot of money out of the supply. So the downside is that you have the banks and the feds and the Federal Reserve would have to slow down that printing press. So I think for them it would be a real negative. And I think initially there would be some problems just because we've been running this fiat money system for so long. So I think initially there would be some probably negative effects to us being backed by gold. But I think that, there was a reason why when they set up this country, the Constitution, you could have a $20 bill and you could replace it with a $20 gold piece. there's a reason why they set that up. There's a reason why we were such a strong country. And now you look at us and, the world, really laughs at us in terms of our debt. And they look at our problems and they say, I don't want anything to do with that. And the only reason we can get this debt is because we're the world's reserve currency. So we can just print and print.
It's faith. It's faith-based, fiat-based. And I think just the idea of having these gold reserves calculated for each dollar just makes it sound like we're going to be a stronger nation for it if we can achieve that. It's something to strive for. It's like having, like a stockpile. Scrooge McDuck has that giant gold that he swims in all the time, and it's like he still has other money, he has other assets, but it's like you always have that gold, and we need to Scrooge McDuck this thing. Basically, I guess our pot would be Fort Knox. We need to refill those coffers.
And Brooks, it's a perfect analogy, and that's really what we talk about here at Noble Gold is really being diversified. And what you're saying is, don't have everything in one place, but don't have all your money in equities, don't have all your money in the stock market. You're saying he's got something in a different place too. And so he's diversified. That's, and it's kind of a funny analogy, it's a cartoon, but, really the idea is all wealthy people, all the top, 3-4% in the country, they all have different assets because when things hit the fan, so to speak, you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket because you might need that money for whatever reason.
It's confusing out there. I'm getting into some of this stuff myself. I'm pretty much a layman in terms of business, finance. I've always focused on videos and that kind of stuff. So jumping in and having the people giving us that straightforward information, and also at the same time, you can transition and buy your gold or your silver or transition an IRA to that. But it's more about just working together. It's like we're gonna make money together. Let's all figure this out. There's no worry here. There's no loss in at least looking into it.
Exactly, and that's getting educated. I think in a different area is important. Some people don't even know that you can put precious metals in your IRA. It's been around since 1987, and that's really because the stock firms, the mutual fund firms, they really dominate the market. The annuity companies, they really focus. There's so much money there in New York, advertising, and some people aren't aware, hey, you know what? I don't have to keep all my eggs in one basket. I can diversify out of it and put it into something tangible. We also do help people if they want to get some gold and silver delivered. We do that. We really focus on products, the best quality bullion, gold and silver products. Everyone says, once they get the product, they're amazed how beautiful all the coins and bars are. So
yeah, and I think it's a great deal. It's a great idea. And again, like you were saying, now is the time for a lot of things. There's a lot going on in finance and business in the last 6 months. I mean, I was going to say a year, but we could just go back to September. There's lots of things going on in the market. I think you mentioned we're at an all-time high in the stock market. We've had lots of climbs in Bitcoin as well. Gold has been moving, and now we're talking about the gold standard coming back. So it's a pretty exciting time out there, and I think I think it's fun, and it's a good time to get in. It can be a little nerve-wracking, but that's why it's great to have good people in your corner like Noble Gold Investments. In myself too, I like to help and advise people, send them to the right places. So that's why I'm flattered to have a good sponsor like you guys. I really appreciate you joining us today.
Absolutely. No, and I look forward to growing the relationship. And I think if they call in, our phone lines are open 24 hours. So they call at any time they see this video, they have questions, just leave a message, mention that they saw you on your show, and we'll get them out the free guides and get them a lot of good information. And
all right, thanks for joining us today, Colin. It's been fun. I hope everyone will check out noblegoldinvestments.com. We'll also have the links in the description below. Check out their website. Give them a call. Thank you, Colin, again for coming on the show. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Brooks. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, talk soon. I hope everyone will check out noblegoldinvestments.com, especially if you're interested in gold, silver, investments, and making money. Their links are all in the description below. So what do you guys think about today's gold story? Should the US move back to the gold standard? Is gold still a good investment? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. See y'all next time.